Hi, my name is Rayni Collins. Welcome into my workshop on stress management and wellness for entrepreneurs. A little bit about me. Again, my name is Rayni Collins. I actually am a therapist of going almost on 12 years. Um, it actually wasn't until March of 2022 that I stepped away from working for a big company, doing outpatient work with individuals, that I started my private practice in March of 2022. I was new to business, a small owning and running a small business. Didn't learn that in graduate school. I think most of us don't learn that in school, whether we know, especially if we didn't know that we were going to go into business. I was actually very lucky early on in my journey as a business owner to get connected to the Gravity Center. And it was, lucky as well as, much needed. Uh, Many things that I learned through the process of connecting with other businesses and business owners was this sense of community and the fact that I didn't have to do it on my own, because for some reason I thought that I had to do it on my own and do it alone, and I had to, just, muscle through things. And it's almost ironic being a mental health counselor and having that mindset. So it was a huge mindset for me, mind shift for me, even as a therapist, coming into being a business owner, into being an entrepreneur myself. And so I'm definitely continued to be very grateful to the Gravity Center and all the support and help that I've gotten over the years. And so I'm of course thankful today to come back and give back to other entrepreneurs in their journey. So as I mentioned, one thing that I even struggled with at the beginning was thinking that I had to do it alone. I had to just do it all and do everything to try and gain business. So this obviously became a stressor. It's, I think, a stressor for most entrepreneurs. There's also the financial instability, the inconsistent income, just not knowing if I was going to be able to pay my bills or not. Um, just having to feel like I had to do more in order to gain more clients, to gain more money. All the decisions to be made was a lot, as well as long hours, working beyond time that I would be working with clients. It started to add up, and working harder than I felt that I needed to. And it was draining. Didn't take very long for me to learn that. I also remember the stress of isolation, lacking support, which, like I said early on, I was able to connect with supports. And then there's the difficulty of setting boundaries with time and with people. I name these as things that I know I was stressed with at the beginning, and I think these are very common stressors for other entrepreneurs. So I hope that you are listening to this and maybe nodding your head and, in agreement, maybe understand, and maybe there's things that you would even add to these common stressors. And unfortunately, when it comes to stressors, it can then have a toll on you physically, on you mentally, and usually the physical part is are the early warning signs, the symptoms. So increased heart rate, tension, irritability, upset stomach, having sleep troubles, strain in relationships. So those can be the early warning signs, the precipitating factors of how stress is starting to have a negative effect. And the consequences then can turn into more long-term, having burnout, anxiety, depression, that can turn into also other health issues, weaken immune system, and further relationship strains. So there has to be an intervention. And this is where it really, for lack of way of putting it hurts my heart when I encounter anybody, but especially those that are entrepreneurs that love what they do, that are pouring as much as they can into their work, that they're starting to break down mentally, physically, emotionally, and then they're not able to continue to do the very thing that they love and want to pour themselves into. So I hope in efforts of this, or that I can provide some a difference, or realize that there is a different way, and making sure to take care of yourself, prioritizing your health yourself, for the sake of not of yourself and your life and your relationships, as well as your business and what it is that you're trying to build towards in the long run, professionally and personally. So it always seems to come back to the basics, of reminding people to go back to their basics. And what I like to call them are the five basics of wellness. And what those are sleep, nutrition, water, movement, and connection. Five. Starting simple, basic. These are just things that you need to do. These are like what I also explain to people are non-negotiables. Like, these are things that are you stick to consistently, regularly, without question. And I try to make sure to break it down so it's not like, oh, 2/3 of your day needs to be of you movie. Like, no, I'm all about simplicity, efficiency, making sure it is like dummy proof of making sure that you do these things. So the first thing is sleep. So sleep is actually one of my specialties. Sleep is the first thing that I address with anyone that comes to me and wanting to work with me in any capacity, because it is the number one basic need. If you are not if you're not sleeping well, if you are, then it's really hard to do much of anything. So sleep is first and foremost the thing that I address with people, um, because it is actually the beginning of the next day. People don't think of it that way. That sleep is the beginning of the next day. And when you have a good full night of sleep, and good in whatever that means for you, then you're really starting the day in the best way possible, having more energy, feeling a little bit more refreshed. But usually this is the first. Sleep is put at the bottom of the list. Sleep is unfortunately the first thing to be thrown out, or people think that they can catch up on sleep. People think that they can sleep when they're dead. Like, these things are just toxic, negative ways of thinking, especially when it comes to sleep. Sleep impacts the way we think. Sleep affects how we metabolize food. Sleep affects how we make decisions. Sleep affects how we communicate. Sleep affects our immune system. It affects everything, absolutely everything. And again, this is why sleep is the first thing that I work with people, and getting that improved and figuring out what it is, how much that they need, and when is the best window for them to sleep. We do that first. And then it's that then the next basic of wellness that I don't necessarily focus too much on because it's not my area of expertise, but of course it's addressed, is nutrition. Making sure that you're fueling your body with just what it needs in order to operate, to run, to be healthy. Because I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, they're like, oh, I was just working and I forgot to eat, or I, had to step in because somebody, called out, and I couldn't eat. I hear it. I understand it. Figure out some simple ways, making sure you have snacks on you at all times. Stashing them away in different spots so you have them. Because running on E is just not a way to operate. And your body it's like a car with no oil, no gas. Like, sure enough, over time, it's going to break down. It's not going to work well. So same with your body. Next thing is water. Of course, you need to stay well hydrated. That is one of the other essential, like, you're dehydrated. You really don't need to see the snowball effect of how that's going to affect your overall health. Um, And I often try to tell people like it's outdated, the whole 8 glasses of water thing, or 8 cups of water a day, because everybody's body is different. And everybody's body is a different size and has different needs. So take your body weight and divide that in half. And that amount in ounces is actually how much you should be drinking of water each day to make sure it's fully hydrated. Because if you're dehydrated, people also don't realize how that actually affects your mental state, your ability to focus. It affects, how you're metabolizing food. It also affects you being able to go to sleep at night, as well as if you're going to, nutrition also can affect if you're not going to sleep. So if you don't have proper food and water, that in turn affects your sleep. That also in turn affects everything else. So it's kind of cyclical. It all affects one another. Next thing is movement, making sure that you get about 5 to 10 minutes 3 times a day or 30 minutes in one chunk. So just moving your body. I hear so many people that talk about just how they sat at their desk all day. That's not how our bodies are meant to operate. We're not meant to stay stagnant. We're not meant to sit still. We're not meant to do that. We're meant to move for many reasons, to keep our blood circulating, for cardiovascular health, for our mental health, to take breaks from what we're doing. And just overall, using our muscles. So again, I could go on and on, try not to repeat myself too much, but it also in turn, movement and exercise helps every system of your body, especially the way that you think and operate and need to take a break. um, Connections, this means connections to yourself. So taking the time to check in with yourself and connecting to how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and then making sure that you're keeping the connection strong with those around you, your supports, your professional supports, your personal supports. So making sure to have them in the loop of what's going on for you and with you. So those are the 5 basics. I always go over them with people. And so those are, in a nutshell, some short things. And actually, there is a nice little handout that I've created for today's presentation, that I hope that you will receive an email or it'll be posted, that gives you some more specific tips of some of those particular basics. So always like, usually with presentations, so this is a little bit different for me, is doing it more webinar, more presentation style. I'm usually very interactive. I like to be in the room or in the space with people, whether that's virtually or in person, to teach things. I feel like this is what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you. But I like to talk with usually. So this is a little bit different. So I'm going to be showing you some things that I hope that you do along with me, whether you're watching this recording afterwards or not. Just doing it with me so that you experience these regulation tools, or another way you can call them, our coping skills, so that it's a way to help you to, in the moment, and they don't take very long, or you can take as long as you want, 5 to 10 minutes or so, to that you can do throughout the day to calm your nervous system down, to try and keep that stress in a more manageable place. So I'm going to teach you 5 different things that I want to invite you to try with me. So the first thing I call is the chest press. And it's pretty basic, pretty simple. It's just something, it's like an add-on to doing some deep breathing. I could go into the neuroscience about it and how I learned it as a polyvagal nerve um, treatment skill, or like a coping skill, but I'll save that for another time. It's just simply another way to calm your nervous system in a deeper way with using your breath. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the palm of your hand and you're going to find the where your collarbones meet, right here, and it's at the top of your sternum, about 2 inches below. Actually, lower the screen a little bit so you can see. So right here, what you're going to do is you're going to take a deep breath in, holding your palm right there. And then as you exhale, you're going to slowly press your palm into your chest with about 20% of your strength. Okay, so we're going to do that a few times. So deep breath in, slow, sustained exhale as you press into that spot into your chest, which is a polyvagal trigger point, basically. All right, let's do that two more times. And again. So we did that, what, three, four, five times? So in just doing that short time, I hope that you noticed even just a subtle shift, even just a little bit of calm. So then you can imagine if you continue to do that over time, if you did that for longer, how much more it would help you to calm down. And you can do that anywhere. It's not like, you could do it if you're, taking a restroom break, or if you're walking down the hall, if you're, taking a walk, just sitting in your office. It doesn't take very long. It's just, taking a few moments to try and calm down your nervous system. So the next thing I like to teach people is called heel drops. This is actually a technique or something I'm taking from my dancer background. Is when I would be doing turns and I'd be dizzy. Well, this is something that actually is good for equilibrium, to center it, as well as centering your nervous system. So we can do this a couple of different ways. Some people, if they're not able to stand up and do it, what you can simply do is do it actually with your shoulders and your heels, as if you're in a chair. So you're just going to lift up as high as you can and then drop. All right, let's do it a couple more times with just your shoulders, lifting them up as high as you can and drop. All right, two more times, lifting up and drop. And then one more time and drop. So now, if you are able, if you would like to, you can do this standing. And I am actually already standing. So if you would take a minute, stand up. And what you're going to do is you're going to lift your heels just a little bit off the floor. You don't have to do it really high. And then you're just going to let your body weight drop down. Okay. So you're going to lift up a little bit and drop. Do it a couple more times. Lift up and drop. Again. And last time. So yeah, take notice of how you're feeling right now after doing that. So that's, again, something simple, and then, that's my style, doing making sure things are simple, doable, practical to lead in throughout the day. So you can do that anywhere. The next thing that I like to do is, or to show people, is the shake it out method. Um, and this is based in, I always like to get the image of thinking of, like, if you've ever seen a deer or another animal of prey. Usually, and let's use the deer image. So after a deer has been chased, after it feels like it's been threatened, it's been in flight mode, what it does to go back to homeostasis, to regulate itself, is actually to shake its body. And then, if you notice, if you've ever seen it, like, it goes from, a heightened state, very tense muscles, to then it goes to calm after doing that shaking out, or discharging is another term that it's called. So you can do this a couple of different ways. So you can simply, shake out one particular part of your body, like your hands, and I try to encourage people to shake down, because anxiety is such a very, like, disorganized energy. Stress is a disorganized energy, meaning just like no direction, feeling lost. It's usually very light and up here. So then, if you're shaking it out, then, it's bringing the energy back down towards the ground. Grounding is essentially grounding. So shaking out the hands down towards the ground. You can also shake your feet down towards the ground, any part of the body, or you can shake your whole body in some way. And doing it for like 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be long. It can be very, very short, but just shaking your whole body. And it can be as intense as you are okay with. You can do it a little harder. Of course, never want to hurt yourself in any way. So that's shaking it out. All right. So the fourth thing is what I like to call, well, it's not like I called it that. I'm taking it. It's called gaze spotting. And it's a mindfulness technique that's based in brain spotting, which is a technique that I am trained in. And it's based on the hypothesis of where you look affects how you feel. And so using the eye position is a way to tap into regulating the nervous system. So skipping over all the neuroscience behind it, there has been some great benefits in seeing how the eyes, which are part of the brain, and how it provides a deeper way of processing through trauma, processing through stress and anxiety, processing through even good things, processing through, a positive moment, and wanting to feel that more. So it's something that can be used in many, many ways. But for the sake of today, we're using it. I'm teaching you a way to use it for stress. So with gaze spotting and finding a spot, so taking a look around your space, just glancing around left to right and noticing how you're feeling in your body as you're looking around. Try and find a spot that your eyes are drawn to, that you're interested in, that feels pleasant to you to look at. For me, right now, I have this vine going up the corner of my office space, and so focusing on the leaf. So find a spot in your space that you like, that makes you, maybe puts a little smile on your face, and just take a few moments. Take 5 seconds, doesn't have to be very long, and just look at it. And you just take a break, take a breath, and just focus on that spot. And I'll count out for 5 as you focus with my hands. Okay. And then take a moment, check in with yourself. How was that break? Just focus on something that was nice and pleasant, and hopefully brought you even just a tiny itty bitty sense of calm. Right. The next thing I like to teach people is movement sequencing. So basically, you can use your body to try and shift you from one state to the other. Um, and I usually like to focus on, and this could be used in a number of ways, but what I usually instruct people to do is focus on past, present, future, and keeping it more in small scale or the scope of the day. So meaning, you focus on how you felt this morning, focus on how you're feeling right now, and then focus on how you want to feel later. And you can use your body, where you can just have a word have words that represent those in mind. You can use your whole body, and or you can just use your hands. But think about this morning. How did you feel? And how did, what would represent that word? Maybe you're tired, you're draining, maybe you're a little bit slumped over. And then presently, how are you feeling? For me, that's a little bit more awake, more upright, um, focused. And then how do you want to feel later today? How you want to feel. So it's projecting that in hopefully, in a positive way. So standing up a little bit taller, I want, to feel energized. I want to feel content with how my day went. And just really hold yourself in that state, whichever state you want to be in. So I want to hold myself in that posture of being energized and content. So I'm standing up taller, how I want to feel. Because usually, if we shift our body, if we shift our mind towards what we want, that in turn actually can help influence us to feel better, to actually maybe actually feel those things. And then it's going to affect behaviorally what we do, how we carry ourselves throughout the day. Because sometimes we need to register, okay, where am I coming from? Where am I right now? And where do I want to go? So I'm giving that in for you to use in whatever way to help you to basically ride on some motivation, and set some intention for the rest of your day or for what you're trying to work towards in your future. So those are some of my go-to tips and skills and tricks that I wouldn't say they're tricks, but they're tools that I like to teach people and give to people because they're short. They more times than not, the feedback I get from people is that they're helpful, they feel good, they're fun, and they're totally doable. So I hope that you find benefit in them. You can take, a few of them, take all of them. And again, they'll be on the handout for you to reference back to in case you happen to forget after today's presentation. So what I want to make sure before we start to wrap up is to keep in mind when it's time to seek help. We've talked about the common stressors that happen for business owners and entrepreneurs. We talked about the impact of how stress can be short-term, long-term. Then we talked about, the 5 basics of wellness that everyone needs to have as non-negotiables to be able to be healthy and set themselves up to thrive, not just professionally, but also, of course, personally, just all in all, or across the board. And then I've taught you some things that you can do today and forward to manage that stress on the daily. But then what happens if you do all those things and you're doing even more than that to try and be well, to try and be okay, and you're still struggling? Something to keep in mind is, those signs of when it's time to seek help. Some of those signs could be persistent mood changes or sleep issues, feeling disconnected and withdrawn, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, using substances to cope, physical symptoms without a clear cause, and feeling hopeless or stuck. Those are usually the signs. That's usually the time to then start looking for some more supports, maybe a professional support in the form of a therapist, psychologist, coach, someone that is well versed, well trained, and may give you some added help with what you're doing. Some ways to find them are through online directories, referrals, or if you happen to have a employee assistant program of any sort, that is also an option. You can also, of course, reach out to me. I love to help people. Of course, if you're, somebody that I can help directly with my services, then please reach out and we can see if we're a match. I'm also upfront with people that if I'm not a match for services for whatever reason, I have other people that I'm connected with and know very well that I can then refer you to, or help you find someone that is going to be more of a match, even if I don't know them. So either way, I like to help people connect with the people that are their match, that are going to help them to feel better, do better, be better, and reach their goals. So that is, something I love to do, is just help people. And that can look different for different people, whether that's with my services or not. So I'll go a little bit into, of course, how you can reach me. But before we go into that, I just want to make sure that it is made more clear that the more that you show up for yourself, the more that you put into yourself, the more that you give back to yourself and your health, and that you don't let stress overtake you, then you're not going to be empty, and you'll actually be more full. So that's what I want to help people to feel full emotionally, mentally, and physically, so that you can continue to give and pour into what you're doing and what you love. But that has to be sustainable. So sustainability is key, consistency is key, regularity is key. So I am just here to make sure that that message is emphasized, is that, strong leaders are sustainable in all areas of their life. So I hope that all that I've shared today is helpful. I know that I gave a really short intro to myself, but kind of coming back to that, which I kind of sprinkled in during the presentation, I specialize in sleep. So I am a sleep therapist. That is the first phase in what I do with people. And then if people are needing, after they've slept well and they're sleeping better, what I then shift into is doing the longer term therapy work, which is for anxiety, depression, trauma using dance movement therapy, using brain spotting, and using person-centered therapy skills. You can reach me by email. You can also reach me through my website, which is e-motivecounseling.com. And then I'm very active on Instagram, which is e_motive_counseling. So I hope that you find me. I hope you connect with me. If you have any questions after listening to this presentation, or if you have any constructive feedback, I am very open to it. But I'm just right down the road. My office is here in Fort Mill, and I share space with New South Family Medicine and Med Spa and the Echelon Contrast Suites. So if you're ever down this way, come check us out. So thank you again for coming and watching this presentation. I hope that you've at least taken away one thing, if not more, and reach out if you ever need me.